My name is Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way, and I have long, ebony black hair. Just kidding. Hi and hello, my name is Chizu and welcome to the channel. In the world of fandom, self-inserts have certainly carved out a name for themselves. The depths of early Tumblr and DeviantArt have definitely seen its fair share of slightly questionable fan-made characters made by overly excited middle schoolers, and, admittedly, it would be dishonest of me to try and convince you that they were quote-unquote good. But it would also be a bit unfair of me to up and say that self-inserts are inherently terrible. Before getting into the objective truth of whether or not they're valid, it's important to define what exactly self-inserts are. According to the ever-trustworthy Urban Dictionary, a self-insert is when an author or writer puts themselves into a story they have written as a character. In other words, self-inserts are meant to represent their creator in any type of given fiction. Take Stephenie Meyer, who infamously inserted herself into Twilight as Bella Swan, albeit with a few key changes. There's also Ebony from the most infamous Harry Potter fanfiction, My Immortal. But self-inserts aren't limited to just books and fanfiction. You can see them everywhere, from video games to movies and TV shows. Hell, the entire Otome game genre thrives off of self-inserts where players are meant to project themselves into the story. Self-inserts can vary from author to author. Some are more blatant about the practice, while others make an attempt to be subtle. Oftentimes, you'll see self-inserts where the characters look exactly like their authors and even share their names. Other times, they're completely different, sharing maybe one or two vague personality traits. I personally like to imagine self-inserts on a spectrum. On one extreme end, you have the shameless, "this is just me," where characters are near photocopies of the authors that they are trying to represent. This is in direct contrast to the other extreme end, "this is who I want to be," where characters represent the idealized self of the author. In fact, self-inserts have created a reputation of fantasy fulfillment where an author has their inserts essentially live out their dreams. Perhaps this is done to live vicariously through their own work, but honestly, is it so hard to blame them? Well, according to much of the internet, yeah, it is. But what is it about self-inserts that make them just oh so unbearable to the majority of the population? Well, to put it baldly, they're cringe. Often associated with really young kids making super subpar OCs definitely doesn't help their case. I mean, it's hard to defend self-inserts when a vast majority of them are written by annoying 13-year-olds with the sole intention of dating their fictional favorite. And perhaps this invalidates the entire argument of my video, since everything I say now may come from a place of bias. But I would know about these things. I was that 13-year-old, and I was super annoying about my self-inserts. I can confirm that I have irritated the people around me about them. And from experience, self-inserts and the stories that they were placed in tended to be super melodramatic and poorly made. Simply put, people just find them embarrassing to see. In fact, here is a never-before-seen excerpt of my super humiliating Black Butler self-insert fanfiction that I wrote at the ripe age of 12. Funny enough, the document is actually titled Pathetic Black Butler Fanfiction, so I was definitely self-aware about what I was doing. Well, this is my master, Lady Giselle Dawnfeather, but the Queen calls her the Eagle. I am her butler, William Rondero. Pleased to make your acquaintance, William replied to Sebastian with the same smile. Ciel examined Giselle up and down, looking at her jet black hair and slightly tanned skin. How can she be an eagle with sharp eyes if she wore glasses? He wondered about the irony. She wore a light purple dress that went past her knees and black gloves. The way she dressed reminded him of Lizzie, his fiancée. Ahem. The noise came from Arthur. Everyone did seem to forget that he was here. So you're here to help solve the case? Oh, no. I'm here to solve the case. I needn't any help, Ciel declared, crossing his arms. Sorry to say, but as the Queen's Eagle, I should be the one solving the case. I have the sharp eyes and logic, Giselle cried, flailing her arms, which is not very ladylike, by the way. With your sharp eyes, there is a reason you wear glasses, right? Ciel countered, tilting his head up so it seemed like he was looking down on her. Giselle took a step closer, looking Ciel dead in the eye. If you're trying to look intimidating, or just trying to look like you're taller, it's not working, I'm afraid. Truthfully speaking, that wasn't even the worst of the fic, but it's what I could stomach looking at. Moving on, self-inserts see a ton of overlap with the Mary Sue genre of characters. And for those of you who don't know, Mary Sues are characters written as the definition of perfection. They say no wrong and do no wrong, and any mistakes they do make are quickly forgiven and brushed aside. Mary Sues are a whole other topic on their own, but generally, Mary Sues are not well liked. And for good reason too, they are often a reflection of an author's amateurish writing skills. Moreover, these characters seldom do anything to improve the quality of the stories that they're in. That being said, many self-inserts fall into the category of being Mary Sues, and that's no surprise to me either. As I said, Mary Sues are written by inexperienced writers, and many authors of self-inserts are just young kids learning how to write their first story. Obviously, they're not going to create something amazing, they're just getting started after all. Sure, the idea of putting yourself into your favorite anime to date your crush sounds pretty childish, but hey, we all start somewhere, right? But of course, it would be difficult to talk about self-inserts without mentioning another glaring issue that people tend to have with them. That being, the people who make self-inserts are desperate and need to touch grass, which I guess isn't entirely wrong. Looking at the self-insert genre at face value, a lot of these inserts are created for the sole purpose of being romantically shipped with a pre-existing character. This practice can be interpreted as an act of desperation, because clearly these writers have such abysmal love lives that the only way they can achieve any sort of romance is through fiction. And maybe that is the case for some people. I personally wouldn't fault them for it. At the end of the day, self-inserts, like any other piece of fiction, is a form of escapism. And if an author wants to ship themselves with Sasuke Uchiha because they're downtrodden about being single and need to channel that sadness elsewhere, that is perfectly fine. Because despite all of these previously listed reasons to hate self-inserts, I can never find myself being willing to agree. Sure, some of these points stem from a place of truth, and well, many self-inserts are just written objectively bad. What isn't? People love to focus on the negative, of course they do. Much like a car crash that you can't seem to rip your eyes off of, seeing poorly made self-inserts must spark that same emotion. Being so good it's bad is probably one of the greatest allures to a subject. These things tend to be shocking and hilarious and unexpected. You just can't help but point and laugh. And don't get me wrong, I love getting a good chuckle out of some obscenely stupid thing I encountered on the internet. But to clump the entire self-insert genre in this space just doesn't feel quite right. To say that all self-inserts are horrible is like saying all pop music is awful. Pop music may not be to your taste, but you can't generalize an entire scope of music. There's bound to be at least one good song. The same goes for self-inserts who have been around for forever. This may come as a surprise to you, or perhaps it doesn't, but either way, a genre so vast that self-inserts are bound to have at least a couple of hits. Some examples from well-known literature include Lemony Snicket in A Series of Unfortunate Events, Dante's Inferno, and an honorable mention goes to Jane Austen, naming the kindest and prettiest Bennet sister after herself. I won't get into too many specific examples, but a lot of the protagonists of YA books just tend to be reskins of their authors. Take Sarah J. Maas, who quite literally casted herself as Selena by putting her own picture on the cover of her book, Throne of Glass. Regardless of what you think about any of these characters and their respective stories, the self-insert genre has garnered a ton of success, and it does seem a bit unfair to discredit that because it's cringy and embarrassing. Now, I'm not trying to say that self-inserts need to be amazingly written, intricate masterpieces with critical acclaim. I'm only mentioning it to prove that good self-inserts, at least in the eyes of commercial success, do exist. However, I don't think self-inserts need to be groundbreaking and mind-blowing just to be seen as acceptable to people. Is it not enough to just let others have fun, regardless of how weird or cringy it may seem to you? Sometimes people just need a break, and if their idea of having a good time is writing a 50k fanfic about their cafe meet-cute with child from Genshin Impact, then so be it. If an author isn't doing anything morally apprehensible, then does it really concern you? And maybe this is a bit of a cop-out for a conclusion, but is it so hard to just mind your own business? So that was the end of the video. Gosh, it's so much harder to talk without a script, but I'm pretty new to this, so I guess drop a like, subscribe if you want to. I'm not here to yell at you if you don't. But anyways, okay, that's all. Bye bye.